I hope not. I hope that the decision to cast the bad guy in Venom did not come down to race, and it was just the best decision to be made. And ideally, in my ideal world, that's the only thing that happens. I seen someone the other day saying that the studio mandating a lack of rep for POC and LGBTQ people is equally as valid as a contribution to the movie as the DOP really wanting a cool shot. What do you think of this? It's a very strange take, to say the least. So when you're writing, whether it's a screenplay or a book, when you learn how to write and you go to writing school, they tell you to make every single word count. Make every single word count. Make sure that every single word that you write affects the story in some way. And I feel like when it comes to movies, every decision that you make in every step of the process, yes, the words, right? Every decision that you make as a filmmaker, as an actor, as a writer, as a director of photography, as a whatever, needs to impact the film that you're making. It needs to have an effect on the film that you're making. So, if you are excluding POC from your movie, if you are excluding people with disabilities from your movie, specifically excluding them, I'm gonna ask, what's the reason? And the odds are, when I ask that question, I'm gonna disagree with your decision. If we look at Black Elves in Rings of Power, since I just finished watching that, if we're looking at Black Elves in the Rings of Power, a lot of the arguments against that were the elves are supposed to represent racial purity. They are supposed to be these perfect angelic beings. That's what Tolkien wrote them for. And I agree with that. So why should people of color be excluded from being pure? So if the reason is you are making a white supremacist movie, by all means exclude people of color. If in your ideal fantasy there are no people of color, then that's your decision to make, and make it with your full chest. I'm gonna disagree with you though. If I'm in the position of J.R.R. Tolkien, and I'm like, here's a race of humanoids that is perfect, I'm probably not going to specify a skin color, because that's not what I believe. That's not the story I want to tell. For some people, that's the story that they want to tell. And for those people, tell it with your full chest. And stand by the decisions that you make. So Tim Burton, for example. Tim Burton says that people of color do not fit his aesthetic. I disagree, but I'm going to let Tim Burton stand by what he says. And if he ends up retracting it later, then he's a loser and a coward, whatever. But stand by what you say. Say it with your full chest. And if what you say is bigotry, say it with your full chest. They always sit there like, I can't see myself in this movie yet. I know that when I went to go see Wakanda Forever, I didn't notice that 97% of the cast was black women. I didn't notice either. Why? Because the cast of Wakanda Forever tells the story. The story is, here is a young woman who is at the lowest point in her life. She thinks that she failed to keep her brother alive. How terrible must that be? So this story is about a black woman learning to accept her mistakes and grow. So what do we see? We see other black women learning to accept their mistakes and grow. The entire cast is black women learning to accept their mistakes and grow. That's the story that it tells. The casting helps that decision. I missed it. I missed the seed. I gotta go back up there. But, and this is what Nick Anger is doing on his channel, so I'll leave it to him if you want to see actual videos of this. You can also make casting decisions that don't impact the story. Riz Ahmed, the bad guy from Venom. Is there a reason he needs to be a Pakistani? No. Absolutely not. Is it an intentional choice to pick a Pakistani person for that role? I hope not. I hope not. I hope that the decision to cast the bad guy in Venom did not come down to race, and it was just the best decision to be made. And ideally, in my ideal world, that's the only thing that happens. That the race of a character or the race of an actor is not even noticed by audiences. It's gonna be so bad if he wasn't. If it was a different brown guy. I'm pretty sure it's him. Let me double check. Please, please, please. Yes, it was him. He was Carlton Drake. Cool. It was him. I know I've made that mistake before. I think with Sonic, where I'm like, oh, that's Riz Ahmed. And then I watched the movie and it wasn't Riz Ahmed. Black women in M'Baku being the voice of reason, every turn he is the only person thinking rationally through the entire film. Yes. So that reminds me of original Mulan. The plot of the movie was that Mulan is a rational thinker. She's a creative thinker. And as a woman, that's what makes her strong, etc. and so forth. Totally fine for a movie. They ruined it in the remake, but whatevs. And so over time, we look at like Fitzsimmons, for example. In these shows, being intellectual, being rational, thinking about what you do before you do it has become this feminine trait. And so M'Baku, who's like the big lug comedic effect in the first movie, being, hey, I can also be compassionate, I can also be empathetic, I can also be intellectual and clever and strong at the same time, perfect. Hamilton is a fantastic example. I don't care that the entire cast, bar King George, was POC, right? And in Hamilton, like, remakes and stuff, like, I saw Hamilton live, and what's his name? Aaron Burr was an Arab guy. Did notice. His ears stuck out funny. I did notice that. But I didn't notice his race, right? Because it doesn't have an impact on the story. And I've also seen people arguing, like, oh, the race of the people in Hamilton matter because these are all colonizing slave owners, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Because we're not talking about these people as people. We're talking about these people as historical figures, as people who are part of the American legend. The only prerequisite is that they are American, except for King George. But even I think he was American in the original cast. M'Baku is the female gaze. I cannot agree or disagree. I don't know. I saw the female gaze guy on TikTok a while ago that just like at the camera. And now I'm confused. I don't know what the female gaze is. I'm really happy that the live Ariel is redhead because that was part of the story in the original. I wish the same had been done for The Wrinkle in Time, but the whole movie was so sad because I love the books. I haven't seen or read A Wrinkle in Time, so I can't comment on that. But the issue when it comes to representation and the issue about being intentional when it comes to casting, and The Little Mermaid is part of this. Does that impact the character? Does her hair, the color of her hair, impact who she is as a character? You can argue yes, because out of all of her sisters, she's like the odd one out. She's the outcast a little bit, and you can signify that by being a redhead. Sure, if you want to. Is that the only way to signify that? I'd argue no. You could give her glasses. That's another way of doing that. But yeah, it all depends on, like, what is the story that you want to tell and how do you want to tell it? And I think in our cultural milieu, redheaded people have gone from being, like, socially outcast, etc., to being objects of desire, objects of coveting. So does having redheaded Ariel have the same impact today that it did in, what was it, 1989? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It was more about the story and how they each represented a different sea, and she was a red sea. Sure. I didn't get that from the movie, but I've heard that before. That's definitely a valid interpretation. I stand by there is no female gaze because there's basically no vacuum in Hollywood where top to bottom nobody but women get input, whereas men still have the opportunities to avoid any femme non-white input to get a thing produced. Yes. Because I feel like, so you could call M'Baku the female gaze if you're a female and that's your gaze, or you're well informed about the female gaze, I guess. Or alternatively, you can describe M'Baku as non-toxic masculinity, because he is very masculine without being toxic. I feel like that's also a valid way to describe him. If I remember rightly, they had auditioned thousands of people for Little Mermaid, and the fact that they settled on Halle Bailey after auditioning thousands basically proves that the bigots are wrong by default. Yeah, but tell the bigots that. They're not going to accept that. They're going to say, get the best actor, get the best actress, get the best person for the role. And then when you get the best person for the role, they're not going to agree. Because it's a dog whistle. In A Wrinkle in Time, the series, the fact that everyone in the family for generations had a red-haired gene is an integral part of the story. Bingo. Bingo. I suppose they could have found a different way to explain the Red Sea thing. Yeah. Especially because it doesn't hold up for the other sisters. I'm pro-BIPOC way, like redhead genes exist in multiple races. Yeah, you're talking to somebody that has blue eyes. Yeah, these genes exist in other people too. But also, she's a mermaid. She doesn't have human genes. For A Wrinkle in Time, I get that. That's important. For Little Mermaid, not important. He's securing in masculinity, not afraid to open up to Shuri and console her and comfort her in her darkest moment. Yes, that's the definition of non-toxic masculinity. You love to see it. I think Bandit or Lucky from Bluey are similarly accept goals models of masculinity. I still haven't seen Bluey. I know. I've just finished Rings of Power. I need to finish Willow, and then I can watch everything else that's on my list. Oh my goodness. How do you expect a mermaid to have human genes when they don't have human legs? I love M'Baku because he introduced it in a very toxic masculine way, only for that to be flipped on its head. Yes, don't judge a book by its cover is always a good lesson to learn. I think, like, M'Baku, and I'd have to rewatch the first movie to say this for sure, but I feel like M'Baku is, like, tough when he needs to be, but also kind when he needs to be and funny when he needs to be, and, right, he embodies multiple characteristics that are totally realistic to have at the same time. So, and that's good because it shows, like, don't believe the stereotypes, because the Jabari tribe follows a different religion than the rest of the country, and they're also isolated from the rest of the country, and they also, you know, challenge the leadership of the rest of the country. They have depth and they have reason for what they do, and they're good people. I think that's a great lesson to have in your superhero movie. And it makes you consider, like, why are these people doing what they do? I want an entire show with M'Baku. More of him the better. He's one of the most well-rounded characters in the entire MCU, I say. I agree. I think he is one of the most well-rounded characters. I don't want to see an entire show about him because I feel like he's good as a secondary character. He is good as somebody who, like, foils some people, supports some people. I think he's good as that. And I don't want him to be Jack Sparrow, where they take a very good secondary character and they make him the main character and it sucks. I don't want that to happen to M'Baku. So I'm good at him just continuing to be in Black Panther movies and being who he is. If I move quickly, I can prevent the enemy from spawning. Let's see if I can prevent the enemy from spawning. No! Dang it. Oh, I could just defeat them very quickly, too. I would love a show where he's a secondary protagonist, just constantly messing with the primary protagonist. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see, right? Like a Shuri show where he's her counsel. That would be nice. Or like a new character from the Jabari tribe that's like learning how to grow up, and he's like a mentor. That would be nice. If I move quickly, I can prevent the enemy from spawning, but how do I move quicker? If it's... I guess I could fall, but let's try. Let's try to prevent this enemy from spawning. Yeah, don't spawn. Why would it tell me to move faster to prevent the enemy from spawning if the enemy's gonna spawn before I even get there? But also, and this is the part, the same thing that happened with Bionicle, is that when you have that kind of story, it gets very stale very quickly, and you gotta switch it up. And so with the MCU right now, if a story gets stale, like Iron Man's story, for example, you just switch to a different hero with another few decades of backstory that you can pull from, and it's an entirely new story. I don't know. I feel like there's too many easy stories to tell since you're pulling from the books anyway, there's too many easy stories to tell before they have to make up their own. Stories are hard to continue, right? Just in general, stories are hard to continue. Even Arthur Conan Doyle killed Sherlock Holmes because he got pissed off. I don't like that movie studios and even like publishing houses and stuff are like, we need the same story over and over and over again. It's like, no, you're going to ruin all of these stories. If you ask for the same story over and over and over again, you're going to ruin these stories. If you ask for the same characters over and over and over again, you're going to ruin these characters. Like, you can't do that. This is where I started. But that's what they do. And they're like, so at least with Marvel and with DC, I don't think Star Wars is doing this, but they might start doing this. There's enough of a catalog where they can be like, okay, we can't risk an original story, but here's something new that we can tap into. And when I say newest story, I'm not meaning like a new story. I'm meaning like a story that hasn't been told in a movie yet. You know, Riri Williams' case, 6 years of backstory. Yeah, or Kamala Khan, right? Have I been calling her Camila Khan this whole time because that's how it's been spelt in the chat? Kamala Khan. Kamala Khan. I knew there was something off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm like, that's not her name, but I don't know what her name is. Kamala Khan, you have enough backstory to build a foundation, but then you can change it, right? And a lot of the fanboys were pissed off that she went from embiggening powers to cosmic powers. But don't forget that the reason that she has her powers is because she wanted to be like Carol Danvers. Or that's not the reason that she has the powers. The reason is because of what happened in Inhumans. But the first thing she did with her powers was accidentally turn into Carol Danvers, is because that's who she wants to be. So I feel like the MCU is just cutting out the middle part of the story and being like, all right, your powers are to be like Carol Danvers, then you're going to be like Carol Danvers. We'll just make your powers more like ours. The powers also look really bloody cool. Okay, let's not push it. Has anyone seen the trailer for the new Into the Spider-Verse movie? I've not seen the trailer. I've seen the poster just because people on TikTok have been complaining about the poster. I just recorded a video about that before the stream, so we'll see a video tangentially related. It's about Gandhi, but I mentioned Into the Spider-Verse in it. I haven't seen the poster. Why are they mad? They're mad because Miles Morales is slightly darker in this movie than he was in the previous movie. And I think that was beef with the trailer too, but I still haven't seen the trailer. Because a bunch of indoor people are finding out for the first time that people of color sometimes change color. And the reason they don't know this is because in order to do that, you either have to grow up or go outside. And the people who are complaining about this have done neither. So that's my pettiness. I don't know if I recorded a video where I was saying that and being petty. I don't know if I want to publish it, but we'll see. Hammer trail out on my birthday, so I was quite happy. That means your birthday was recent. Oh, we did wish you a happy birthday, I think.